$115,000, $359,000, $703,000, $4.5 and $5.5 million. Those are just some of the estimated losses of a few of the 14 plaintiffs that filed a lawsuit against Woodhill Capital in Williamsville last Friday, alleging the firm orchestrated a Ponzi scheme that led to a total of $13.3 million to disappear from investors.
To think about losing that much from an individual investment standpoint is tremendous.
As we first reported on Wednesday, Woodhill Capital staff would allegedly solicit investors an opportunity to fund equipment leases that businesses sought financing for. But the lawsuit alleges that the loans were either manipulated or fabricated altogether.
Sadly, it is pretty textbook in its allegations, and that's probably something that we don't like being able to say. After the Madoff days, when we start thinking in terms of now these Ponzi schemes we would have hoped have dissipated.
UB law professor Christine Bartholomew says that what ends up happening in schemes like the one Woodhill Capital is alleged to have operated is eventually the whole thing collapses.
You have a Ponzi scheme where you have a loan kind of arrangement here, and then finally there's just not enough money to pay off even partially return payments to investors.
According to court documents, the scheme collapsed on March 10th of this year when payments to investors halted. 14 investors filed a lawsuit on April 3rd alleging the scheme and losses. Then, April 7th, the FBI searches the offices of Woodhill Capital.
This one's interesting to me because you first had a private lawsuit that was preceding the criminal investigation. That's a flipped order. Usually we end up seeing these criminal investigations and then what we call tag-along or follow-on lawsuits.
Right now, the U.S. Attorney for the Western District is neither confirming nor denying an investigation into Woodhill Capital, but the FBI search was court-ordered.
It's possible that that's where the investigation is coming, and I was a little surprised that the lawsuit's been filed in state court, not in federal court.
But that isn't to say criminal charges are not on the horizon. As for the lawsuit, Judge Emilio Koliakovo issued a temporary restraining order against Woodhill Capital on Wednesday, freezing some of their accounts and prohibiting them from transferring funds.
Well, to get a TRO is actually kind of a big deal. It is a hard burden of proof to be able to freeze funds like that. So there's something that we haven't seen, you and I haven't seen yet, that the judge was privy to that does make the situation concerning.
Erica Shields grew up in central New York, went to college in St. Louis, was a stockbroker, lived in Boston. But in 1995, while in her 20s, she joined the Atlanta Police Department and rose through the ranks.
My approach to law enforcement has been and remains one of fair and equitable policing. It is not just terminology.
She was sworn in as a Louisville police chief during COVID, and the department was understaffed. Now she's set to lead the BPD.
I place a high emphasis on training, continually learning, and the adoption of best practices.
A few years ago, in an interview with Louisville Magazine, she talked about being in a position to mentor the next generation of police. She also described herself as a huge proponent of body cameras. During a TED Talk, we learned more about Shields' personal life and appreciating diversity in policing.
You have to be uncomfortable if you're going to grow.
And I'm very proud that the most qualified person to apply for this job was also a woman. And it's about time that we have women in these leadership positions.
During her 30-year career, she's dealt with controversy, including the high-profile 2020 police shooting of a black man in an Atlanta Wendy's parking lot. Shields stepped down as chief. She didn't shy away from saying controversy is part of leading major departments.
If you are running a major law enforcement agency, you're going to have controversies, and you have to work through them.
And now, a career spanning 3 decades, she's a nominee, prepared to lead the Buffalo Police Department.
Following the gator's seizure, which the state says was made because Caballero had failed for 3 years to obtain, under a more recently passed law, a needed dangerous animal license, Albert eventually was taken to a sanctuary in Beaumont, Texas. Just over a year ago, a judge gave the state 30 days to review Caballero's renewed application to keep Albert and said that if it didn't, it would automatically be renewed. The state asked the appellate division of state Supreme Court in Rochester for more time and then, last summer, denied Caballero's permit. The fight could have lasted longer, however.
It's been expensive, long, hard.
And against the state's limitless pockets, Caballero, according to his lawyer, found himself in the jaws of a difficult decision.
It's going to be another appeal another year, year and a half of litigation. By that time, it's going to be 3.5, 4 years. And even if we win, I get this thing back and the license gets reinstated. And then I got to deal with the state, who is going to be all over me for the rest of my life.
Even if he gained Albert's return, he worried about his health.
Bringing the alligator out of a situation he's been in for 2 years, I don't know how good that is for him.
He decided enough was enough.
And Tony's 2 years older, he's 66, and he doesn't really want to have to deal with the state all the time in his backyard. So I think it was a combination of things.
Here's another thing. Albert may not be the only one living the remainder of his life out of state.
He doesn't like how he was treated by the state, and I don't blame him. And I don't think he wants to, live here and give them his tax revenue anymore. So that's his choice, but he feels he was mistreated by the government.
I've requested meetings. I email after email, and I've been ignored.
The former dog control officer says in a post on social media, she informed the administration of new shelter laws and a need for facility upgrades and other changes. She said those calls were largely ignored and pets were at risk of missing critical vaccinations.
The new shelter laws, they have to get vaccinated. They didn't have a DCO for the past 2 years, and they were non-compliant with the state. And so there's no records that I could basically look at to qualify historically what was going on.
The mayor tells me the city is following all state guidance and says the main goal of the shelter is to be a temporary home for stray dogs before they're brought to a more long-term rescue center.
It's my understanding, and I've had a few people reach out to me, other DCOs, that say, it's not the shelter's responsibility, because we are a holding shelter, to fully vet the dogs, but we are to, if there is an emergency, take them for emergency care.
Sasso's contract ended March 31st, and the mayor of Dunkirk says Tuesday evening, City Council could approve a new dog control officer.
62-year-old Rex Yoyerman, the now admitted Gilgo Beach serial killer, who police say tried to live a double life as a suburban New York City husband and father, confessed to the deaths of 8 women in court today, including then 24-year-old Melissa Bartholomew, who had moved from her Buffalo home to New York City in 2007 to become a stylist. Police say she came into contact with Yoyerman as an escort, and he admitted to strangling her in July 2009. Her body among the 6 sets of remains found in remote beach locations on Long Island's South Shore in 2010, which prompted the formation of a police task force and the eventual 2023 arrest of Yoyerman after investigators found various clues, including the DNA evidence from discarded pizza crust in a box. Police say he contacted victims with burner phones and even called to taunt Bartholomew's sister after Melissa's murder. 2 on Your Side speaking with Melissa's mother, Lynn, in 2011, who said she felt he would eventually be caught.
When he does, he's going to pay the price. And I wish I could have minutes alone with him. And we're going to fight as hard as we can to take life like he took all these girls' lives.
Today, the prosecutor crediting the victims' family members, 20 of whom were in the courtroom, with pushing for justice as Yoyerman thought he could get away with the killings by silencing his victims permanently.
That silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice.
Yoyerman's defense attorney also speaking of conditions for his client.
When Rex decided that he wanted to accept responsibility and didn't want to proceed to trial, from a defense standpoint, we then pivoted. He's going to cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and as you heard the district attorney, there will be no further prosecutions in regards to these 8 victims.
Yeah, Scott, after 23 years serving the 141st Assembly District, Peoples-Stokes said that she's made this decision to spend more time with family, with an upcoming medical procedure as well, and that said that God has another plan for her. Peoples-Stokes recalled how a couple weeks ago she announced that she would seek re-election and was thankful for the support she received during that petition process. But on Monday, she informed Erie County Democratic Party Chair Jeremy Zellner she would not be. Her decision coming just as those petitions to run in November's election were due, meaning a new Democratic nominee will be selected by the party before April 14th. First elected in 2002, Peoples-Stokes said she almost didn't return to Albany on multiple occasions, but was talked out of it. Peoples-Stokes said she is most proud of her work on the Buffalo AKG, the Buffalo Medical Corridor, protecting the environment, legalizing cannabis, and establishing the African American Heritage Corridor along Michigan Avenue.
People sometimes ask me, particularly younger people when I go and talk to in classrooms, well, what exactly is your job? My job is helping people, and I have done that. So I believe the legacy is strong. I kept staying because people wanted me to keep staying. But, you know, when you get a message like the one I got, that I'm going to be taking care of my health next week, you have to listen.
Stokes did not specify what procedure she will be having at ECMC. When asked who the party vacancy committee should select to succeed her, she mentioned one person by name, said that they would have state and municipal government experience as well as existing partnerships, and there she is. Assembly Majority Leader, or rather Buffalo Common Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope and her former Chief of Staff in the State Assembly. Peoples-Stokes stressed that the party vacancy committee, though, would make the ultimate decision of who would be on that November ballot. Independent nominating petitions will open on April 15th, just the day after. The party will select who will run. Those will be open until May 27th. Reporting on your side in Buffalo, Rob Hackford, Channel 2 News.
After more than a decade,
it does wear on you, more mentally than physically.
Town of Tonawanda Supervisor Joe Eminger is stepping down from his position.
I have given everything I had to this town. I put the town in front of my family, in front of my personal well-being for 20 years. And definitely the last 10 and a half years as supervisor.
Eminger, who says he's in good health.
Can a guy retire when I'm in good health?
Believes the time is right for a new generation to step in even sooner than late 2027 when his term is supposed to end.
So we're going to get new ideas, new people coming in, or at least from the new supervisor.
Eminger leaves behind several major projects in progress, including the Huntley Power Plant site, which closed at the beginning of his first supervisor term, taking millions of dollars of tax revenue from the town.
That's winding down. We're almost to the end. We're going to be owning, the town will own that property this year.
And the Tonawanda Coke site, one of the town's biggest environmental cleanup challenges.
They've brought before the town board possibility of putting a data center up there on the, it would be the east side of River Road, and then on the waterfront side of River Road, doing a marina, office building.
He's also reflecting on what's been completed.
Paddock Park over on Brompton Road. We got a significant $4 million commitment from Paddock Chevrolet and the Paddock family. They were committed to the town's recreational facilities.
And a new town ambulance corps.
That service has done outstanding in terms of service to the community and bringing in more revenue to the town.
And when it comes to his vision for the next town supervisor?
They got to be a people person first and foremost. You represent 70,000 people. I represent 70,000 plus people here in the town. You got to like people. You got to like talking to them.
At the Elmo Volunteer Fire Department today, there was water distribution for folks who have been impacted by that water main break and who no longer have water or are still waiting for service to come back. This was just one of two locations where residents could pick up water from 9 to 11 this morning. The other site was at the Jameson Road Volunteer Fire Company. We do have some positive news in regards to that water main break. Crews have completed repairs to the water main. Doesn't mean everything is back to normal yet. While service returns today, residents could experience air in their water lines. The water could look cloudy or discovered. You may also notice some fluctuations in your pressure. Keep in mind the restoration process takes some time, as more than 2 million gallons of water need to be returned to storage tanks and distribution lines. 2 on Your Side has been talking to residents since this situation popped up yesterday, and one woman says it's impacting not just her, but also her animals as well.
They usually drink anywhere from 30 to 40 gallons of water a day, and I have 2 horses. A lot of people have a lot more, and a lot more animals, so it's hard. You can't go to your neighbors because they don't have water either.
It's still unclear what caused this water main to break. The town says that they're still investigating that, but we'll work to learn more about what happened there. And just to keep in mind that there's still that boil water notice in effect. So if you are using the water that's coming out of your spout and you are a resident here in Alma, go ahead and make sure you boil it until the town says that it's safe to not do so. On your side in Alma, Natalie Foss, Channel 2 News.
Lori Adams is the president of the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors.
Our market is still very competitive.
Adams says right now there's more than 600 single-family homes for sale in Erie County. There's more than 200 in Niagara County.
The average days on market for us is 10 right now. So things are going quickly if the property is well done and priced well.
According to data from the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors, there are fewer new listings so far this year than in years past. List prices are climbing. The data says the average home in Erie County jumped from $225,000 in 2023 to about $270,000 today.
You're not going to find a home in California for $270,000 that's livable. So if you compare it to different areas and things, our housing is still affordable, but it has gone up significantly.
In some cases, those high prices are making it harder for those trying to buy their first home.
First-time buyers, the one that's really having the problem here. People that have been in their house for even 10 years have built equity and they can work on being a move-up buyer.
The National Realtors Association reported in 2025 the average age for people buying their first home was 40 years old.
It's changed significantly because the price of homes has just gone up dramatically.
Adams suggests working with a professional and be strategic.
Historically, interest rates are at a reasonable rate, just hit a historic low. So the best time to buy a house is when you're ready. I think Buffalo is a great place. Our Western New York area is a great place to raise a family. Our affordability is good, and I think we're going to continue to be strong.
On your side in Buffalo, Courtney Courtwright, Channel 2 News.
There were multiple homicides in the city of Buffalo in the first 10 days of April. One on Wednesday night near Schiller Park on Sprenger Avenue. Community leaders are trying to work with the community.
Talk to neighbors, see what information we can get, see how they're doing, what they need, and then see how we can make the healing process start immediately in the community.
Interim Police Commissioner Craig Macy says there does not seem to be a connection between the 4 shootings last week, 3 of which were fatal.
These are all isolated incidents from everything that we're seeing with the investigation so far.
Macy says the department has benefited from partnering with community groups.
We are leveraging everything possible to reduce gun violence in the city of Buffalo, whether it's violence interrupters like the Peacemakers, SNUG, other outreach groups that have been very successful for us as an agency in de-escalating and diffusing.
Murray Holman says gun violence prevention starts with talking to young people. He says one of his programs works with more than 25 young adults who are 14 to 20 years old. He says Pastor Giles's HEAT program works with another group of about 30 young people.
We have to listen to them and listen to our colleagues and hear what they have to say about gun violence, why they were using it, and how can they change it. So that's what we're looking forward to, having dialogue.
The data center idea is controversial.
Developers want to build a 500,000 square foot AI data center on the former Tonawanda Coke site. Town of Tonawanda Supervisor Joe Eminger says the new proposal is already raising concerns.
It just came to us 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, to the town. The developer brought it in. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered by a lot of different people.
Among those who have questions, the Clean Air Coalition of Western New York.
We don't see a data center as a just transition for Tonawanda Coke due to the amount of energy that it's going to use, the amount of noise it's going to cause, and pollution that is downstream in the energy generation process.
Chris Morosky is the coalition's executive director. He says the data center, which will use 300 megawatts of energy, is a point of concern.
But we're mainly concerned with the amount of energy that they're going to use and the emissions that that's going to cause with generating that much power.
John Williams is one of the developers behind this project.
There are a lot of issues that data centers have caused in other regions of the country, and we spent a lot of time to ensure that not only the tenant but the operator of this facility had answers for those.
Williams says the project wouldn't require new power infrastructure and that they are planning on building a $50 million energy substation, which would reduce the chance of extra costs being passed down to local ratepayers.
The unique thing about this site is The 345 kV transmission line, which is the second highest voltage line in the nation, sits right on our property. Like there's a right away from us to National Grid for that transmission line.
Data centers are often criticized for noise, but Williams claims this project will take steps to minimize that.
We have committed to the town that we will stay within, not only the code, but we're going to work to try and be below it.
For many, pets are part of the family, but caring for them doesn't come cheap. Now a bill in Albany aims to offset some of those costs.
The rising cost and affordability is impacting everyday New Yorkers, and we've seen that with our pets too.
New York City Assembly member Stephen Raga, a Democrat, is sponsoring the legislation.
What this bill is trying to impact is making sure life is a little bit more affordable.
It would create a tax credit for pet owners, up to $150 for everyday expenses like food and up to $300 for vet care. That's capped at $450 per pet for up to 2 cats or dogs per household, up to $900 a year.
Now that the bill is introduced, we have assembly members and senators that are willing to get on and co-sponsor and take this to the finish line. If we pass it in the next few weeks, this could impact your tax deductions for the upcoming fiscal year.
At the SPCA serving Erie County, they see firsthand how rising costs can impact families and their pets.
We see every day people calling us saying we think we have to surrender our animals because we just cannot afford this pet anymore.
But some questions remain about how a first-of-its-kind pet tax credit would work and who it would help the most.
Anything that is given to pet owners to help them afford to keep their animals is something that we find valuable. I think with this particular bill, we just have to make sure that it's easily accessible. We have to make sure the pet owners don't have to jump through 20, 30 hoops.
And while its implementation will be key, advocates say even a modest credit can make a difference for families trying to keep their pets.
For a lot of pet owners, $900 is a lot of money, and that could be the difference between being able to keep a pet and having to surrender a pet.